Episode 1.
Episode 1, kind of episode 2.
Yeah.
This is the Dean Zelinsky Show podcast. We did a brief intro teaser episode where we were testing the rig, and the conversation was pretty good, so we put it out for people to check it out. But this is what was supposed to be episode 1 of the Dean Zelinsky Show podcast.
Right.
And you're Dean Zelinsky.
Right. And we're going to start kind of from the beginning.
Right, which is where we were intending to go. So
Right.
for those of you...
Well, the other thing is the Dusty Hill bass had sold that night.
We had
at
to
auction,
talk about it.
And we were just doing a test, and we said, oh, we got a topic, blah, blah, blah. So we rolled. Okay. But now we're not testing. We're this is it.
This is it. So you're Dean Zelinsky. And again, for those who are new watching and don't know who you are, we have a long short list of who and what you are. And even people that might think they know you, there's a lot to you. And they might not get to know the Dean that I see every day at the shop doing stuff.
Okay, just so you know, this is Parker. Parker came into Dean Zelinsky Guitars as a marketing guy who, by the way, has done an incredible job and really built the company, the brand, great over the last 4 years or whatever. But then Parker comes to me and says, hey, I want to learn to program the CNC. I want to learn the design. I want to run the CNC. And Parker has been very instrumental in building the custom shop. Everything that comes off that CNC machine, Parker programs. Even equally important, Parker implemented our fret dressing and our setup operation, the final setup. And Parker's the reason every guitar plays flawlessly.
Yes.
But amongst all those other things, he's head of marketing.
Marketing, all sorts of stuff. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So
and here's a podcast for it.
Right. Okay.
Okay. So Dean Zelinsky founded Dean Guitars at the age of 19 in 1977. You've built some of the most iconic guitars of all time, from the ZZ Top Fur guitars that we talked about to Dimebag Darrell's Dean from Hell. Your father passed away when you were 12. Your best friend passed away of cancer when you were 16. And you named the ML guitar after him, Matt Lynn.
Correct.
You married a Playboy centerfold. Nice.
Worked out.
You're left-handed.
This is true.
And yet you play guitar right-handed, for those that don't know. You have a guitar in the Smithsonian. That's pretty nuts. You were featured in People magazine at the age of 19.
Yes.
You own
I think the magazine was in black and white in those days.
They are, yeah, well, you had the big mustache there too, probably, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, and I got to party with Harry Carey, but go on.
So we need to talk about that. You own a white Doberman.
I have a very rare, beautiful white Doberman.
You survived the recent mass shooting in Highland Park.
We're in the middle.
You were on the news for that. A lot of people probably saw that.
Yeah, it was kind of a panic. Not my best moment, but yeah, that was a thing.
I don't think it was anyone's best moment.
We can do a podcast on being in a mass shooting.
Your first guitar ever sold was to a already well-established rock star.
Platinum selling rock star, yes.
You're a vegan.
Correct.
Which I'm reminded of daily.
How can you tell if someone's a vegan?
Because they tell you every 10 minutes.
Exactly, okay.
You're a patent holder.
Correct. My mic's coming apart. Hold on, yeah, I'm a patent holder, yes.
Yeah, you're the iconic Z-Glide neck that's on every guitar that we put out the store. We're the only ones doing that. You had lunch with Eric Clapton.
Yes.
You've hung out with Jimmy Page.
At the Snuggery, downtown Chicago.
Yeah, among a slew of other rock stars. So,
yeah.
I mean, what else?
On my list of unique, weird stuff.
Unique traits and accomplishments, yeah.
I was on Jeopardy recently.
Oh, yeah, that's right, yeah.
I mean, not me personally, but I was a Jeopardy question.
You were on the question. I'm going to punch that in right now.
Made good 800?
Dean Zelinsky, a noted maker of these, has crafted them for Sammy Hagar, Nine Inch Nails, and many other artists. Dylan.
What are guitars?
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, I was a Jeopardy question.
Pretty cool.
Which is, by the way, I
Hold on, wait. Here's my favorite story. I remember like the day that happened. You texted Paul Reed Smith, and you're like, "Were you ever on Jeopardy?"
and I sent him a clip,
and he was like, "Nice."
Yeah, but there was a bigger part to the story because Paul Reed Smith and I were in Germany once, a few years back, and we're in Thomann Music.
Okay,
we're literally in the music store, which is this massive kind of thing. Thomann's like a juggernaut. For those people who don't know, it's probably the biggest music store in the world.
Right.
But anyways, we're in And some kid's all excited to meet Paul Reed Smith, and he turns to me and hands me his phone. Can you take a picture?
Yeah.
So he's got Dean Zelinsky taking a picture of him with PRS.
Unknowing.
And not knowing who I was, obviously,
That's funny.
which is cool. So that was Paul's moment when we were together.
Yeah. Well, you got back with the Jeopardy thing.
And then later, when I'm on Jeopardy, I sent him a text. I say, "Hey, Paul, you ever been a question on Jeopardy?" And he kind of just responds, texts me back, says, "Congrats."
Yeah.
So it was cool. Paul's a cool guy.
So, again, iconically, everyone most predominantly knows you as the guitar builder. And you're one of the most well-known names in guitar. So let's talk about how you started becoming a guitar builder, because like as we just said, at 19 you were featured in People magazine. So how the hell does anyone become featured in People magazine as a guitar builder, let alone before you're 20 years old?
It was simple. Well, to be a guitar builder, you got to start playing guitar. I mean, you got to get interested in guitar.
Okay.
So I was interested in guitar at a very young age. Like my mother, we live in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why, but my mother brought home an acoustic guitar that Marshall Fields was the big department store in Chicago.
Right.
And I guess they were taking them down a window display, and there was an acoustic guitar in it. My mother somehow bought it from them for $1 and brought it home. And I think it only had one string, an acoustic. But anyway, that was my first guitar.
You remember getting it well? And
Yeah, I got it. And then I wanted to play guitar, but I didn't know how to play guitar and it only had one string.
Mm-hmm.
So then I started taking lessons. I'm like 10 years old, and I started taking lessons, and they rented me an acoustic guitar, which I think was a Gibson.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I was into guitar at 10 years old, before I had my life-changing moment.
Which was?
Saw the Monkees.
Okay. That was your rock star moment?
I saw the Monkees, and I wanted to be a monkey.
Are we talking you saw them on TV? You saw them in person?
On TV.
Okay.
Later I met the monkey. I was friendly with Peter Tork.
We're going to have to talk about that, yeah.
But anyways, so I saw the Monkees, and I lost my shit. I was a little kid. I'm like,
Yeah.
I want to be a monkey. I wanted to grow my hair long.
Yeah.
And guess what?
You grew your hair long?
No, my father was a businessman. And he's like, you're not growing your hair long.
So was anyone in your family at that point musical at all?
My mother was musical in that she majored in music in school, and she could play piano.
So she was a pianist?
But she didn't do any of that.
Yeah.
I guess it was in the blood, but not really.
Okay.
Yeah, it wasn't a big thing in our house.
But as far as guitar and stuff, you were the first one in your family that had an interest in that?
Yeah, I was totally interested in guitar.
Okay.
But I wanted long hair, and I wanted to be a monkey.
Right.
And my father's like, no, you're going to be a businessman.
Okay.
Which is part of a huge story, by the way. But when I had an epiphany, which was only about 10 years ago. But anyways, my father I wanted long hair, mm-hmm. and I wasn't going to get a haircut. I was like 10 years old. My father's like, you're getting a haircut.
Okay.
So he picked me up from my bedroom, and I'm like crying and screaming, no.
Yeah.
And literally and I remember like I was grabbing onto the moldings
right.
of the door jambs. My father's peeling my fingers off.
What year is this?
66. Okay. Yeah, it could have been like 67, 66.
Yeah. Okay.
And he's peeling my fingers off the door. And literally I get to the front door, I'm grabbing the door jambs.
Right.
And he'd get me to the barber shop and sit me in the chair with the little platform on it, and they're cutting my hair, and I was crying.
Because you wanted to look like the Monkees.
I wanted to be a rock star, yeah. And by the way, in those days, it was the Beatles and the Monkees.
Like
Like later, would you like Kiss or blah, blah, blah.
I mean, those things, those fandom
Every
duels
generation
today.
had those guys, okay?
Yeah.
And, Kiss, like Dimebag was really into Kiss. If you were that generation, you thought Kiss was the great, rock
Right.
band. And we were like, Kiss was kind of like... I shouldn't say this out loud, but it was kind of like a joke, these guys.
Right, sure, I get it, yeah.
The music wasn't quite there, and it was all costume. But if you were 10, 12 years old and you saw Kiss, you thought you saw God.
Every generation has that band where you see them at 10 and that's it for the rest of your life.
So it's all, if I was 14 or 15, I would have said, oh, that's a TV show. I would have been into the Beatles.
Yeah, okay.
But I was in the Monkees.
Yeah.
I was born in 57.
Gotcha.
So anyways, it was really cool. Then a couple of, so I'm playing guitar. I was taking guitar lessons. Mm-hmm. I was going to the music store every day, and I saw an SG on the wall.
Okay.
And
at this point, so you've been taking lessons for a while?
A year or two or whatever.
So you're like 12.
But that's when they teach you notes and you have to read Mel Bay books and stuff, and it was really boring and really hard. That's when everyone falls out.
Okay.
So I watched. So anyways, but I'd see that SG every day, and I was like, I mean, I don't know what sex is. I don't think at that age, but that was so sexy to me. You know what I mean? That was because an SG is a sexy looking guitar.
Yes.
Now I could give a shit about them, but back then it was like sex on wheels. So anyways, I always wanted an SG. Fast forward, we moved from Skokie to Highland Park in the house like a year, and so I'm like 12. My father gets killed in a plane crash.
Okay.
And I got my SG. Anyway, no, there was another story to that. Should I tell the other story?
Yes.
So my father was a pretty cool guy.
Okay.
He was a pilot, had his own plane. I mean, when I was a kid, we never flew commercial. We'd go everywhere in his plane. He had a twin engine.
Why did he have his pilot's license? Like, for what purpose?
My father was just into flying.
Okay, just
as a
hobby?
kid.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, and then when he was 16, he built model airplanes.
Was he in the service at all?
He was in the Air Force. He was drafted during World War II. Never had to fight because the war kind of ended when he got there.
Okay.
But he was in the Air Force. Never flew in the Air Force. It had anything to do with it. I don't know. Maybe he was in for 2 years or whatever was required. And then he was out, but he was already a pilot.
Yeah.
He was a pilot when he was 16.
That's cool.
Anyway, so when I grew up, I mean, when I say he was a pilot, he was into planes. I mean, my father bought planes, Army surplus,
So he was into planes like you're into guitars.
Right.
Yeah.
And further to that, my father was in the screw machine business. Okay, he made screw machine parts. Like he had a big factory with 50 employees.
Yeah, you've told me this.
Yeah.
He made like Shure parts too, right?
Yeah, well, the bezel, the Shure, this is a
Guys
Shure
are holding
microphone.
a Shure right there,
This doesn't have it. But like the SM58.
758, yeah.
It's got the ball on it, and it's got that little bezel that screws on. He made that little part that's the threaded
That's
part.
cool.
Okay. But that was his business. Like in the old days, if you looked inside of a radio or a TV, there was like a million metal parts with gears and threads and screws and stuff, and all I say stuff you couldn't find at a hardware store.
Yeah, like
He would make that.
yeah, proprietary parts and stuff.
And he'd get a set of blueprints, and that was his thing.
Cool.
So anyways, he had a screw machine factory. But in our house, we had a lot of woodworking equipment because he was just that guy.
Right.
So we had a table saw, and we had a band saw, not a band saw. We had a radial arm saw, and we paneled.
Some of the stuff that's in the shop right now.
That drill press was in my father's factory in the 60s.
That's super cool.
It's just followed me all my life, and through 3 guitar companies. By the way. Yeah. So anyways, that was so we had all the stuff. So we were a mechanical family. And people ask me about like getting the guitar business. I was the kid, like if my parents bought me a record player, before I played a record, I took the thing apart.
Okay.
So that was me.
Sure.
It was just very mechanical, our family.
So again, at this point, the SG.
Right. So anyways, it's Christmas coming, and I think I'm getting the SG because I always got what I wanted, And Christmas morning, I wake up, guitar under the was stuffed. We had a baby grand piano. The guitar's under there. It's this big fucking case, and I'm like, it's not an SG.
Yeah.
I open it up. It's a Gibson ES 120.
Okay.
And for those people that don't know,
Yeah.
Google it.
I'll put the picture up
It's
now.
the shittiest fucking guitar Gibson ever made with one soap bar pickup and this big molded pick and like a 335 type body.
Yeah.
And I was crying. I mean, I was really disappointed.
Jesus.
Yeah, it was really bad. And remember I told you there's a lot of connective tissue? The guy who ran the music store called Andrews Edwards Music. No, it wasn't Andrews Edwards. It was a different music. I'm sorry. The guy who ran the music store sold my father on This Is the Future. And this is what all the guys are going to because it was a thin line, but it was a piece of crap. But that guy's name was John Montgomery.
Okay.
John Montgomery made all the Hamer guitars. When Hamer started, this very entwined.
Yeah.
John Montgomery made the Hamer, was the original builder of the Hamer guitars.
And again, for those watching that wouldn't know, you have a connection with Hamer.
Hamer was my guitar teacher.
There
This
we
is
go.
all in, but anyways, that asshole talked my father into a piece of
Buying
shit
a dump,
guitar.
yeah.
And then later on went to build Hamer guitars, which was my nemesis in Chicago.
Right.
Okay.
That's funny.
Okay.
He,
So
he
anyway-
was out to get you from day one.
Yeah. So, anyways, long story short, my father gets killed in a plane crash in '69,
You get your first electric.
and my mother felt bad. You know, I
Yeah.
lost my father, and she went and bought me an SG for, I think, for my birthday or whatever.
Okay.
So I did get my SG, and my friend Matt Lynn, you know, who was also my guitar player, he had an SG, so we were SG guys. Or
Okay.
whatever, yeah.
All right. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So, but Matt, even cooler, his mother, this, you know, you got to understand, this is way back. Like Peavy wasn't, I don't know if Hartley Peavy was born yet.
Okay.
But no amps had master volumes. There was no distortion. I mean, there was
Right.
there was fuzz.
The guitar was a different instrument back then.
Yeah. So Matt somehow figured out, his mother did garage sales, okay? And they always had Sears little shitty amplifiers, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And his mother would always grab them for us, you know, at the garage sales, because she used to conduct garage sales for a living. I mean,
Okay.
not for a living, but, you know,
Sure.
hobby living, you know. So anyways, Matt somehow figured out you take the speaker wires out of the one amp and you put a 1/4-inch jack on it, plug it into the other amp, and all of a sudden you had master volume. We were
Yeah. So it was running a
preamping.
preamp into a preamp. Yeah.
Right. And it was like, and we had
Or
like,
even a power amp into a preamp.
you know, we had Jimi Hendrix tone when we were like 13 years old or whatever.
That's cool.
It was pretty cool, yeah. So
It's
anyway,
like some Kinks shit or whatever. Like, yeah, just like
Right.
proto distortion.
So anyways, into guitars, playing guitars, learning guitar, all that stuff. And then my famous guitar lessons, I signed up for at the local music store. And
What town was this in?
Deerfield, next
Okay.
town over.
Yeah,
Highland.
okay,
Okay.
yeah.
And there's a place called Village School of Folk Music owned by Bob Gant. But Bob Gand's son, Gary Gand, was had his own little thing going on. He was a guitar teacher. And
Yeah.
the other guitar teacher was Paul Hamer.
Right.
So these are two young, so those guys are like 4 years older than me. So I'm still like in junior high. These guys are in high school, you know, but they're teachers and they were into rock, and it was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And Hamer had hair down his ass. He wore these chick kind of clothes. He painted his
Well, the
finger.
60s and shit. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like you know, like trying to. I think he was emulating Robert Plant.
Okay.
He was actually a pretty good guitar player, and he was my teacher when I was like 12 or
Yeah.
13 years old.
I really. What like? Do you have any like super fond standout memories from like lessons with Hamer? Or like,
Well,
I like putting you on the spot.
okay, so then we're listening to like who do you listen to? This is early, you know. This is like 69.
I was gonna say like every band I listened to probably wasn't even in existence then, besides like
Right.
Zeppelin. You know, like
So we're listening to a lot of British stuff, you know what I
Okay.
mean? Like the Blues Breakers, John Mayall, Clapton's in there, Jeff Beck. And so I'm going to my guitar lessons and learning all this stuff. And by the way, everything was done on a 33 in a little turntable. And you know, when you're teaching, you had the one that lifted the needle. You didn't have to go back it up but
Right, yeah.
manually lift it up, back it up a hair, and you'd listen to the solo. And Hamer would like learn the solo, and then he'd teach me the solo, and that's how I learned.
right.
And the other big band we listened to was Savoy Brown,
Yes, which
is Kim
continues
Simmons,
to this day.
who
Yeah.
was a good friend of mine who died not so long ago.
Yeah.
Great guy.
Okay, so you're taking guitar lessons. You,
I met all my idols.
Yeah, I'm so jealous. Like, geez, Louise.
I hung with a lot of them.
Yeah, and sold to them. Like,
Right.
man.
Well, I gave them.
Some- yeah,
I
but-
gave them a few. Yeah.
Anyway, okay, so at this point, you've been playing for a while. You're close to 16.
I'm getting to be 16.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's the thing. So Hamer wasn't good enough. You know, I mean, at some point, I'm like, Gary Gant had the chops, so I switched guitar players. I tell my mom, tell my mommy, I want Gary Gant.
Yeah.
So when I switched to Gary Gant, Hamer flips out and he's like, he never talked to me again. So Hamer's not talking to me, you know, and I literally
salty?
and I'm going in for my lessons. He looks at me, and goes, "Traitor,"
Oh, jeez.
like that. So, but Gann was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And
Was Gary Gand in? Where do I know that name? Wasn't he in something?
he had music stores. So eventually he had Gary Gann Music.
Okay.
So he's kind of notorious and all that, and making music. Which,
Did you sell to him at some point?
Oh yeah.
I was gonna say, like, I thought he came up in the last podcast.
Okay.
Anyway, yeah.
So, anyways, Gann was an innovator. That's how I got. Hold on, that was my whole beginning to repairing guitars.
Was Gary?
Yes.
Okay.
So I'm taking lessons from Gary. I'm hanging at a place. And by the way, you can't leave Johnny Winter out of the equation because Johnny Winter was the shit. And that was my guy. I'm listening to Johnny. I mean,
You're wearing the shirt. You're never not wearing the shirt, pretty much.
well, I don't wear it to work.
I've seen you wear it to work. Don't lie to me.
Well, not in the shop.
Yeah.
I'm careful. But anyways, one of our customers sent this to us.
Yeah.
He bought some guitars. And
If you know Dean, you know he loves Johnny Winter more than life.
no, all players are great. They just need Johnny Winter. Mm-hmm. Okay, so where are we at? So Johnny Winter was a big part of it. So I'm learning guitar. I'm learning a lot of licks from. I mean, everything was just lead licks, But I'm learning from learning a lot of Johnny Winter licks, and Kim Simmons were like my two guys, and Jeff Beck was in there pretty heavily.
Okay.
But you can't learn Jeff Beck licks,
You gotta be really good for that shit.
Well, Johnny was tough.
Yeah.
They're all tough, yeah. But anyways, because Johnny just played endless lead solos.
He pretty much went hard until he went out.
Nobody plays like Johnny to this day.
Right.
I mean, nobody sings like Johnny. But anyways, okay, go on. We're back. Gary was progressive, and he had his his father had the big folk music store,
Okay.
but Gary had his little, room or whatever where he literally, built his own music store out of. And
Okay.
so he was teaching, and he was also selling stuff and using a lot of his father's credentials to get like Gibson guitars and all that stuff.
Sure.
So anyways, Gary was building a business, and he's kind of my mentor at the time because he was like 4 years older. He was cutting edge.
Yeah, so you're like 15, 16, and he's like 19, 20?
Something like that.
Okay.
Well, this is progressive, okay? So anyways, now I'm working on guitars. I mean, like I'm getting I'm getting guitars, and everyone's afraid to touch a truss rod. Me, I'm like, we got to work that truss rod, you know what I mean? And I started working on guitars and working on my own guitars, painting, whatever I could do. I was buying fucked up guitars.
Hold on. I mean, okay, as a guy that works in your shop, painting's kind of a bit. What was your first guitar you painted?
Probably an SG.
Do you remember what it was?
Okay, so a friend of mine says, hey, this guy broke his neck off, blah, blah, blah. I'd go buy the guitar. I was pretty entrepreneurial, okay?
Sure.
And I always had cash for some reason. I don't know where I got it. But anyways, I'd go and I'd buy somebody's guitar. They broke the neck off and fix it and stuff. Mm-hmm. So one day I'm talking to Gary, and I'm like, why don't you let me do your repairs? I'm like 16 at this point.
Yeah.
And he goes, you can work on guitars? I'm like, yeah.
Did you know you could? Or you're just like, I'm going to figure it out?
No, I was working on guitars, but
Yeah.
you got to understand what's about to come. Okay, so Ken goes down in the basement of this building where the store was, and he comes back up with an SG case. And he opens it up, and it's this SG, and it's like blown to smithereens. I mean, someone literally took the guitar and smashed it against
Like Pete Townsend did it.
Yeah, but onto like this foundation wall in the basement.
Okay.
So the whole control cavity where all the knobs are was gone.
Okay.
Like just wires. Okay. The neck is busted off, and the head is like off in two more pieces.
Yeah.
Gary's like, can you fix this? I'm like, yeah. By the way, my whole life was just putting myself in the middle and working.
Yeah. Commit and then figure it out.
Yeah.
Do you remember what color it was?
I remember
cherry?
what color it finished because
Okay.
I painted it white.
Okay.
But I don't remember what color it was for some reason.
Okay.
It might have been white.
Sure.
But anyways, can you fix it? Yeah, blah, blah, blah. Take it home. I literally rebuilt the whole corner. I mean, somehow I knew how to work a router at that age or some hand router. And I rebuilt the whole corner, put it in, had to route all the wood out. I put the neck on. I put the headstock back together, and I painted it I used lacquer and a spray can and painted it in my garage and brought it back to him, and the guitar looked like new.
Right.
And he was kind of blown away, I think.
So that was like, is that where you had your first taste of like, oh, I'm into like guitar?
Well, then I had a
crafting.
I had a repair gig.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I'm like,
Was it from that?
yeah. So I would repair guitars. I mean, one day he gives me a Strat, and he's like, "Oh, it was a brand new Strat, and it got dinged in the store." He goes, "Can you fix it?" I'm like, "Yeah." So he brings it back because the black, it was a Sunburst 3-tone burst. And I'm like,
Sure.
"Oh yeah, the black area was, I'll fix it." Blah blah blah.
What was busted with it?
No, someone dinged it, the front.
Okay.
But he sold it as a new guitar. Okay. So he says, yeah. So I figured I'll just fix the ding.
Right.
Spray some black, spray some lacquer. But I was sanding and I fucked up the red part.
Okay.
And then I fucked up. So anyway.
So you're fucking your way up inward and then repairing your way up inward.
Well, I got a problem now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So I was very resourceful. Found this store down in Chicago, and this guy could mix lacquer, and I'm like, bring the guitar, and can you match this? Can you match this? And this guy, blah, blah, blah. It was like a nightmare situation because this guy didn't know about toners, you know what I mean? We're working with like opaque stuff and trying to make toners. Anyway, long story short, I refinished the body, made it look like new, brought it back to Gary, and everything was cool.
You had a lot of repair.
Right.
Well, both constructively and cosmetic experience.
Yeah.
Where do you go from that point?
Okay. So you got to know something about me. I couldn't stand school.
Okay.
I spent all of 5th grade in a closet, coat room.
Why?
Because I couldn't stand school, and I'd just get myself in trouble every day, and I was
All right.
literally this an old schoolhouse with a big coat room.
Sure.
And every day, Dean going, I just spent my whole year in the coat room.
What was the worst school fuck up you did?
Back then?
Yeah.
I don't know. I was just like an asshole or something.
You gotta have one that stands out that we can tell. Come on.
And the teacher's name was Manchester. And this was like my enemy because I literally spent every day in the coat room, okay?
God, the different times, man.
I can't remember this, but my father was still alive. I don't know if I didn't tell him I was in the coat room, because my father was the kind of guy
They
who would go.
put you in the coat room?
I spent the whole year.
This is like Harry Potter in the cupboard under the stairs.
I know. So we went on the Springfield trip, and Manchester was picking his nose. We go on the Springfield trip. Manchester's picking his nose. He's like, Dean, get a picture. So I get a picture. We get them developed, and then we present Mr. Manchester with our pictures from the trip. And we couldn't wait till he pulls out. There's like a whole group of us at this desk. Look at the pictures, because we knew it was in there. Okay, so what this is 5th grade. So what, I'm like 10, 11, 12? No, 11.
10 or 11.
11, yeah. Because I was 12 in 6th grade. So anyways, we're in the, so anyways, the picture comes up. He goes, oh, it must have been scratching my nose. And I tell him, no, you weren't. You were picking it. That was me.
And then you got
I was in the coat room.
And then you got put in the coat room.
Most likely, yeah. Anyways.
Hold on. Yeah, I'm trying to curtail F words, because on Spotify, they will flag it as explicit.
Okay.
Which is dumb. But
Fuck them. So anyways.
Maybe we'll leave that in, all right?
Anyways, that was...
You hated school.
I hated school, okay?
Yeah.
And my mother, she goes, don't worry, next year you'll be in junior high and everything will be great and blah, blah, blah. 3 years of junior high, I sucked.
Okay. So you're close to 8th grade now.
Yeah, so then and by the way, Matt was my best friend since 6th grade.
Right.
Matt Linden. We're playing guitar and doing all stuff. And
again, people don't know this. The Dean ML, which we just spoke about how ZZ Top recorded the Eliminator record with an ML. Like almost every recording that Dimebag Darrell did was an ML. The Cars, yada yada. The ML was named after Matt Lynn, and Matt Lynn was your best childhood friend.
Right.
Okay. So
we'll do a podcast on
we have to do a Matt Lynn podcast,
but this is really about building guitars.
Yeah.
But it was a really sad story because he really got dealt a really bad hand, and it was the number one thing that impacted my life to this day.
Yeah.
Okay. Even losing my father was not as bad as losing my best friend. And
Jesus. Yeah.
In some respects. So
I understand.
It's not a natural. I love my father. Don't get me wrong.
No, I understand. There's connections and
the way it happened and things like that. Okay. So like junior year, high school, I went out of school.
Right.
Okay. And they had a building trades program where you could work half a day I mean, go to school half a day and then you can go
Right.
learn building
I think
trades.
that still kind of exists today. I think
Yeah, it was
that-
like the first vocational,
Yeah.
like blah, 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 you know.
Right.
And so Matt and I enrolled in that. Matt went to Deerfield High School. We went where we lived. We can pick our high schools.
How far away apart did you live?
A block.
Oh, and you were in different high schools?
Where we grew up, we could
It was like, okay,
go pick our high school. It was just a unique zone, okay?
sure.
And all the druggies went to Deerfield.
Okay.
And I was scared of drugs.
Sure.
I wasn't a drug guy in the Highland Park. So I went to Highland Park.
From what I've heard, Matt was a badass.
Matt was badass.
Yeah, he had no
And was
qualms
a-
getting in a fight.
I was a street fighting.
Yeah, he knew his shit.
And I was a little dick. I shouldn't say that. I could do what I wanted because everyone knew that the toughest guy in the school was Dean's friend.
Yeah. Well, you
Okay.
picked your friends well, so.
Right. So that was a thing. And yeah, it was anyways. So Matt was tough. So Matt and I started taking Taekwondo karate.
Okay.
And he got sick and died shortly thereafter, but it was rumored that I took karate because
he was getting sick?
Because Matt was going to
Yeah.
check out and I needed to defend myself from all the shit we
Jesus.
did.
So you two were getting into some stuff.
I
You had a
was just-
reputation?
No, he was. But I could be a dick.
Yeah.
I wasn't a big dick, but I know.
But like people knew you were friends.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, so we signed up for the building trades class,
Okay.
and that was a disaster because the teachers. I knew more than the teacher,
Okay.
and the teacher didn't like me. So we were working on a house, and we're rehabbing a house. You'd have your classroom, and then you'd go your days. You'd be working at construction. We were going to a house every day. and working.
School was way cooler back in the day, man. Like, geez Louise, like,
Well, all I did is take shop classes because I couldn't stand school. So you
Yeah.
had to take gym and you had to take English. After freshman year, you had to take math.
Mm-hmm.
I think I took 2 years of math, and you had to take 1 or 2 years of science or whatever. I got kicked out of my science class and never went back. Not politically correct. I called my teacher a and he kicked me out. But anyways, and I got kicked out of class and never went back. But anyways, then I go to listen. It was me. It was my life. Okay, I
again,
couldn't stand school.
so what year was it when you were 16, 17?
So our junior year, we're in the building trades thing, and we had to call him coach, and we go up there and we like work on this house. Okay,
Okay.
and I kind of knew more than the teacher, so the teacher was kind of fucking up, and I would tell him how to do shit, and he resented me.
Okay.
Like they're building us. I had paneled our own basement right before my father died, so I knew how to panel a basement. Okay, they're working on the soffit. I'm like, that's not how you build a soffit. And he goes, "What do you mean? How do you build a soffit?" I said, "You build the whole rig on the floor and you screw it up." Oh, you can do it either way. So these guys are working. The classmates are working all week building the soffit on the ceiling.
Yeah.
And then we come back Monday, the whole thing had hit the floor and busted up.
Sure.
So and then one day he says, "Hey, take out the garbage disposal." And I'm like, "Why?" He says, "It's not working." He hits the switch and it's humming. And I'm like, "You got the Allen wrench
Is it
that came with
broke?
it?
Yeah.
You got the Allen wrench that came with it?" And he's like, hands it to me. I put it in the spindle in the bottom,
Sure.
just free it up, pull someone threw a nail in there or whatever, pull it out, and the thing's working. I'm like, "Why did you want me to pull it?" So anyways, every day you'd go and I'd have to get your assignments. He'd say, "Oh, you're working on the garage, you're working on this, and guess what I was doing? You sweep the basement, sweep this, sweep this."
Man.
So anyways, then they're like trying to hang a garage door. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, they couldn't like hang a garage door. And I'm like, every day, I'm like, "Coach, let me work on the garage door." "Oh, no, you sweep the blah, blah, blah." It was like sweeping,
Sure.
And every day I'm like, they couldn't make the garage door, hang a garage door and make it work. And I'm like, "Let me work on it." He would never let me work on it.
This is junior year? Sophomore?
Junior year.
Okay.
So they called a garage door company and had them professionally installed before he'd let me work on it.
Yikes.
Yeah. So that was enough. And then my friend Matt, by the way, I don't want to go down this road now because it's a whole different story, but he showed up one day and he had this big lump on his leg.
Okay.
And we were all laughing because he had this big lump. Or he was laughing. Everyone was laughing like, "What's this?" And then it turned out to be nothing laughable. So,
Yeah.
but anyways, that was something that happened during. Anyways, that happened during, that era. Senior year, I said,
Screw this.
yeah. I mean, I didn't go back. I was done with that. Senior year, I want to get out of school, and they had another program where you could work half a day. You go to school half a day and work and get credit for work.
Okay.
And that's what I want to do because I want to open up my own repair place. I got the business coming from the music store.
Yep.
I want to start advertising.
So by this point, you're much busier with repairs?
I want to get busy.
Yeah, okay.
I'm still in school.
I got you.
What I mean?
Yeah, I don't know.
But yeah, I mean, this is what I want to do.
But you've been doing it for a while.
Yes.
Okay.
So anyways, but I want to, I was entrepreneurial, and I want to do this, okay? And school's in my way now because it's nothing for me there.
Right.
I'm not going to college.
Yeah.
My mother had that talk with me too. Oh, next year you're going to go to college and blah. I'm like, Mom, I'm not going to college.
Yeah.
Oh, it's not college material. Whatever school, my grades were so bad. Whatever school it would take me, I couldn't go anywhere. Anyways.
Wouldn't bear fruit. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So, anyways, I want to do the work program, but I want to be self-employed. I found a place in Northbrook, Illinois, which is the next town over, and I'm like, okay, I can rent this place and start my business. It was $100 a month in the basement, but it had a storefront. So I go to my counselor. I said, I want to be in this program, but I want to be self-employed. And he says, you can't. Not the rules. I mean, it's against the rules. I said, okay, I'm going to drop out. He says, don't drop out. I said, I'm going to drop out.
So you're threatening your counselor
Yeah.
that you're going to drop out
Yes.
unless you can do a work program for your own business.
Yes.
Got it.
And they weren't endorsing a guy who wants to be an entrepreneur, you know?
You knew what you were doing.
Right. I knew what I was doing. So, yeah. So the threat worked because he came back to me and said, we're going to make an exception for you. You're going to be able to, do this. So the thing is, I had to show them my checkbook quarterly, and I had to show them my phone, that I had a real phone number or something like that, and they let me do it. So that was kind of cool. And the truth is, I never would have dropped out.
Okay.
And the reason
So you played your cards perfectly.
Right. And the reason I wouldn't have dropped out is because my father died.
I know. Yeah, I know this story.
And my mother would have felt, I always felt, if I didn't at least graduate high school, I think my mother would have felt like she failed.
Yeah.
And I couldn't do that to my mother.
Yeah.
So I wasn't going to drop out.
Right.
But I got my way. And I did it. And I opened up my shop.
Sure.
Yeah.
Was your mom proud?
I don't know.
Was she scared?
My mother wasn't scared.
Okay.
And my mother was cool.
Yeah.
But, my father had a ongoing business. And my mother's like, okay, when I die, I'm 12. My older brother's 13 and change. My little brother's 6. And my mother got this whole thing dumped on her that she couldn't read blueprints and run a machine, run a factory full of machines and full of employees. My asshole uncle was in there trying to steal all the business. All sorts of shit going on. And anyways, so she was, she had the help of the bank and all this, but, she had to go down there, run the business, sell the business. She had to go, she's got 3 young kids, and then she's got this big thing dumped on her. My mother's pretty sharp, and had to liquidate everything, sell the business and maximize her assets so she could live, and also have an entrepreneurial son.
Got it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, she was my not only my biggest supporter, but almost like my biggest advisor because she had built a business with my father. And I didn't always take her advice.
Yeah.
But when I didn't,
Did it bite you in the ass?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So there was a lot of things in the way, and she was like, "Dean, do it this way," and I'm like, "No, Mom," and I'm like, she was right. Yeah.
Cool.
So no, she was huge. She was a great mother. She was a great inspiration in my life, and she was a great supporter.
All right. So we're nearing the end of your high school days.
Right.
What's the next big leap?
I'll talk about this again sometime, but I get out of high school, I graduate, and I had this weird, I don't know if it's an epiphany or what, but I'm like, whoa, this is me for the rest of my life. What am I going to do? Because you go through life and you've got this cushion. Like, oh, I'm in school, I'm this, I'm that.
Right.
You know what I mean? You're not. There's no expectations.
Sure.
And then I'm sure people who go to college, like, yeah, 4 more years, but then I got to go figure it out.
And then the real world, yeah.
Right. But I'm like, well, I don't know how you graduate. I think I was 18. And I'm like, oh, this is me for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
I got to figure this out.
Yep.
And I said, okay, I'm going to go into guitar manufacturing.
Sweet.
Okay, so now I'm graduated. I didn't go to my graduation. I didn't show up. I just got my diploma.
All right. Dude, I didn't even want to go to my own graduation.
Okay, right.
I never got that.
Yeah, high school was the worst 4 years of my life.
Yeah, woo-wee, a bunch of teenagers.
I had long hair. These are all different topics.
Hold on, wait,
But
okay.
I had long hair.
Yeah.
And nobody was like tolerating it. You know what I mean? And
I was going to say, so I'm assuming, and again, no offense, just as
this was an era.
Well, okay, so first off, your father's gone.
Oh.
So your monkey's hairstyle is longer than ever before.
My what? Monkey's hair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So you had long hair in high school.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So, anyways, I always had long hair, and my karate days. Did I say it? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you and Matt.
Yeah. My karate days came in handy because I had to use them a few times.
Did you fight? You get in some fights? Mm-hmm. You kick some ass?
Yeah. Oh, I got my leg sliced open with a guy came in with a knife, and I'm like,
In
okay.
Highland Park?
Yeah. I know this stuff. Highland Park seems like a what do you call it?
Bougie area.
Yeah, bougie area, but the high school wasn't because we
Okay.
had the Fort Sheridan guys. We had literally there's a military base here,
Okay.
and those guys were tough. And then there's a big Italian community.
You got
and
scars?
What?
You got scars?
Yeah, I got a scar on my leg.
right.
I'll show you. No, I don't know. It's on my knee. But anyways, I had to get stitched up. So you had the Fort Sheridan, you had a big Italian community, and you had a big Jewish community.
Okay.
And it didn't meld well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, and a lot of racial stuff, and and fights in the cafeteria. It was, and the teachers couldn't handle us. Couldn't handle the school. It was out of control. So, anyways, it wasn't like your homogenized suburban experience, even though it should have been.
Right.
Yeah, teachers were scared to walk the halls, and so was I.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to go in guitar manufacturing,
Yeah.
and I needed some training.
This is where everything gets juicy.
Okay.
This is good.
Okay, so my formal training to this day was 2 tours of the Gibson factory.
Yes.
Okay,
I want you to repeat that slowly because this is hilarious.
All my formal training today was 2 tours of the Gibson factory.
Yeah, and that's all it took for you to smoke them, basically.
Well, I saw how guitars were built, and I got my friend Keith, and Gibson was in Kalamazoo, Michigan, which was like a 3-hour drive. And we ditched school and went to Kalamazoo, Michigan, got there in time for the tour, and just got in line. And
So how many people did they let in?
not a lot. Small, like
10, 20?
10, 12, I don't know.
Okay.
It wasn't like, anything, small group. Like, Gibson was only a $35 million company or $36 million company back then.
Okay.
It's probably big, but it's...
Sure, in the time, but still.
By the time, yeah. It's still, it wasn't like whatever, so...
No Apple, yeah.
We could talk about how small the guitar business was when I started compared to how it is
now,
today.
yeah.
Yeah, but anyway, so we went on the tour and I saw everything. My biggest thing I remember is like, it's all women.
Okay.
And I'm like, that's how my father's factory was. Like he had like men working the heavy shit, but all the secondary stuff, make drill presses.
Yeah, okay, so, yeah. I'm
Like factories had a lot of women in them.
I mean, everyone knows, kind of especially like World War II stuff, like
Right.
women doing factory jobs.
Right.
And again, I'm interjecting and doing my interrupting thing.
No,
but like,
don't apologize. I need help.
you hired me to interrupt.
Yeah.
So, like, what jobs were they doing? And the thing that stands out to me that I've always remembered from hearing other podcasts talk about guitar stuff and pickups, because I'm a big tone audio guy. I always heard about that there were a lot of women working like the pickup winders.
Right.
So, like, what were you seeing? What specific jobs were they doing? And what specific either operations and or machinery stood out to you that like was etched into your mind?
Okay, so building guitars, you have heavy machinery. When I say heavy, I don't mean big, but dangerous routers and shapers and stuff. And then you got a lot of secondary operations. Okay. Secondary, putting in frets, inlays, wiring, sanding, ton of sanding. Okay.
Yeah.
And women are probably better for that and more detailed, you know.
Okay.
And so, like, you know, you watch the big shapers and routers, you know, working. There's men working. Even putting the binding on, you know, the binding was a big tying wrap. You know, you can look it up, but literally it was a heavy kind of tying this thing. All the men were doing that.
Okay.
But all the secondary operation, drilling, sanding, wiring, was, you know, a lot of females.
Yeah.
So it was cool. I mean, I was like, okay, that's how you make, you know, because I was not a guitar maker.
You're 17 at this point.
But I'm not a guitar maker. I was a guitar manufacturer. I used to sit up at night designing tooling in my head.
Yeah.
I was not ever a guitar. I never worked on a bench and built a guitar. I worked on a bench and I repaired it.
Yeah.
Stuff. But as soon as I'm going into guitar manufacturing, I was like, my dad's whole world was manufacturing.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
I went down to my father's factory all the time when I was a kid. On my spring breaks, I would work in my father's factory. I was checking gears, and manufacturing was ingrained in me.
I think that guitar building gets blurred with luthier a lot. And like,
I don't think the word luthier was always in the dictionary, but I hated that term. I was not I was a manufacturer. And that, to me, that was all beneath me. Okay, a guy who sat there at a bench and blah, blah, blah.
Right.
To me, was a simple-minded, I shouldn't insult, you know, but simple.
Well, no,
it was
but
a simple-minded approach. I was like, I'm going to be Gibson someday. I'm going to manufacture guitars.
I think it's a glorified term to an extent.
Right.
Yeah.
So I never liked it. I never wanted to be in the, I mean, I've embraced it over the years, but I never wanted to be that guy. I wanted to be the manufacturing guy. You know, I wanted to get wealthy.
Right. I get it. Like, it's an impressive skill set, but
I should say money was not the biggest motivating factor, but I didn't want to be poor.
No one does.
Okay. So anyways, I went on the one tour. And I think I was still in high school and blah, blah, blah. And then, okay, I graduate and I had that epiphany like, oh, this is me for the rest of my life. I better get on it. And I said, okay, now I got to go to a second tour because now I really had to take notes.
Okay, so now you're scheduling.
Gibson tour number 1 was I just got a broad brush of how guitars are made.
So you really were like inside the industry.
But I got it. I saw shapers. I saw routers. I saw automatic shapers, which was crude as hell by today's standards, but they were automatic shapers, you know. I saw who does what. I saw how it gets done. I saw guitars being sprayed. I saw binding being put on. I saw inlays going in. I saw frets going in. I saw how you mass produce guitars. Right. I got it, okay?
Yeah.
I can do this, okay? But next time I'm going back, okay, what's the name of that machine? What's the name of, you know, blah, blah. I wanted, okay. So I was like kind of taking notes. And Keith and I went back on another tour. And this time, I mean, Keith was like crawling under machines, writing stuff down and stuff, which probably didn't come in handy, but we had a much more...
No, but you had a goal.
An intention.
Your intention was to like, what are these units? How are they putting out X amount of guitars per year?
Right. And I come back to Chicago after that tour, and then I'm like going and visiting machinery factories. I need one of these. I need one of these.
Again, there's so few guitar manufacturers at this point. Were these specialty machines? Were they very expensive? Where were you getting them from?
Okay, guitar manufacturing was like making furniture. It was the same machinery.
Okay.
You take a shaper, you take a router, you take these basic machines and you tool them.
And you make specific
tools and patterns.
Shapes,
and you have custom cutters made for like shaping necks and stuff like that. And that's how you build. Just like if you were doing an arm of a chair, you would have a custom cutter made, okay? So you're doing all that.
Set necks?
Mine were.
Okay.
2 lanes, Fender and Gibson. Okay, Gibson didn't make bolt necks. Fender didn't make set necks.
Yeah.
So I'm down that Gibson lane. That was my world, okay?
Sure.
I grew up with SGs and Les Pauls and Flying Vs and Explorers were heavily on my mind. And I'm like, okay, that's my lane.
Sure.
Do I say lane a lot?
No.
Okay.
You say, so anyways.
Okay. So
anyways.
So that's what, okay. And just for future, I did take my limousine to Gibson on the second tour, my Cadillac limousine.
Yeah, fill me in on that again.
Okay. You know, I had a Cadillac limousine. We could talk about that.
But it was like a used buy, or like, what was that?
Yeah, I wanted
You're 17 with a limo?
18, 19, somewhere in there. But what happened is those were hippie days. The hippie vans were cool.
Okay.
So I'm going, I had a friend who ended up going to jail, but he owned a guitar. Sorry, I had a friend who ended up going to jail, but he had and he was an older dude, you know. Actually, it was Matt's cousin, my friend Matt Lynn's cousin, okay?
Okay.
And he also taught in the trade school that I went to for building trades, but he was the mechanic teacher, the auto mechanics teacher.
Okay.
And he opens up his own shop. Later, we find out he was chopping cars, and he did three stints in jail. But anyways, when I wanted to get out of high school, I ditched every day. Okay, so I would take shop clothes, metal shop, wood shop, mechanical drawing, whatever, and all the shop teachers had their own office. So they shared an office.
Sure.
And I'd go take my gym class, take my English class, and then I'd ditch, and I'd call my teachers, and I'd like tell everybody I'm here today, and they would mark me here.
Nice.
And then I'd go hang at Chuck's shop.
Yep.
Which was in Highland Park, and I just didn't want to be in school.
Yeah.
So I'm hanging there all day and diagnosing cars and just ditching school. Mm-hmm. And anyways, Chuck could go to auctions and buy cars and get deals. So I'm like, Chuck, I want a Chevy van, hippie van. So he's like, let's go to the auction. So every Wednesday you go to the auction and the dealers can buy. So I'm going there. They had this hippie van, but it never came up for auction because these were like insurance companies reclaim, stolen vehicles, crashed vehicles, whatever.
So did you buy a stolen limo?
Yeah.
You bought a stolen limo?
Well, it was clean. It had a clean title. What happens is this is stuff
Where did they find it?
No, this is stolen and recovered, okay? Mm-hmm. So when they recover it, the insurance company now owns it and they auction it.
Yeah, I get it. You legally bought it, but who knows where the hell it came from.
Well, it was in a swamp somewhere, we find out later.
You bought a swamp limo.
Well, it had a lot.
That might be the title of the podcast. I bought a swamp limo.
So they would steal the cars, someone would ditch them somewhere to take off the tires and all that stuff. They'd find it, blah. Anyways, it ends up at the auction. But the hippie van was but anyways, nothing, they're there in the lot, big lot, but they don't go for auction until it's time until they have a clean title.
Yeah.
And they have to clean. So anyways, every week I'm going, there's this cool hippie van, and week after week it's not coming. But then we go once again to try to, hoping the hippie van was going to come up, and it didn't, but there was this Cadillac limousine stretch. Right. And I'm like, Chuck, I kind of like the limo.
Yeah.
Want me to bid on it? I'm like, yeah. So we bid on it.
And you won it?
I won $1,500.
Nice.
And it needed a lot of work. But you don't know, because when you're at the auction, you can't start them up or anything.
I get it. Yeah, you just, what it is.
Tow it back. Anyways, it needed a ton of work. Because it was sitting, and every seal, every water pump, fuel pump, oil, whatever, everything went bad.
So you get the limo started, and you're going to the Gibson tour.
That was my car. We used to party in the car. It had the partition window, everything. My friend, we would party in the limousine. Yeah.
At that point, if you own a limo at 18, I think you're kind of destined for something interesting.
Yeah. Anyways, it was just a party card. But anyways, and by the way, if Keith was driving, I was in the back. I didn't sit in the right seat.
Your chauffeur,
what I mean? So anyways, and you got the window going up.
Yeah. And I know this point. So you take the limo to Gibson.
So I take the limo to Gibson, and when I get there, guess what?
There's a limo.
There's two more limos.
Uh-huh.
So there's 3 limos parked in front of Gibson.
And who's in those limos?
Kiss. Kiss was touring the factory the same day.
Man, so you're like 18, 19, and you've got Kiss, OG, original Kiss.
The real, Kiss. Okay.
The iconic Kiss.
And they were like on the private tour. We were on the public tour.
Yeah.
So we weren't on the same tour.
Did you cross paths at all?
We did catch glimpses of them somewhere in the factory. And that's Kiss, you know what I mean? And that was that.
That's cool.
So,
did you recognize them? Like, you knew?
They were dressed.
Did they have makeup on?
They were, I was seeing them in the distance, but they were fucking dressed.
They were in like full, I didn't know. They were in like full stage attire, like ready to go.
Yeah.
That's
I mean, they were dressed up like Kiss. I don't know if they went out in public like that.
Yeah, but they showed up at Gibson and they're ready to go. That's amazing.
By the way, I have more Kiss stories, but Gene Simmons, he wanted me to build the bass at one time. So I've had some encounters with Gene.
Okay.
But I actually went to one of their shows. I got invited to a Kiss show before they were unmasked. Mm-hmm. And I saw these guys I met them all backstage, because I was trying to hustle guitars to them, which I never did. I mean, wasn't successful. But I tried to hustle guitars to those guys, and I saw them all without makeup, and I'm like, I took one look at them, I'm like, no wonder they wear makeup. Their faces were pockmarked.
Jesus.
And I think it's from the makeup.
Yeah.
They had the worst
Who knows what
complexions.
they were wearing? Yeah, lead-based fucking paint.
Lead, yeah. By the way, so that was that was my first encounter with Kiss, and I was at the board, and I was never at a Kiss. I was never really into Kiss. I was trying to sell Kiss guitars, but I'm sitting at the board when the flamethrowers were going up, and you literally would get a tan at the board. They were so hot from the stage.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I had other, his wife, girlfriend at the time, was a Playboy playmate. I was married to a Playboy playmate.
At that time. No, not at that
No,
time.
no,
You were in high
later,
school. Yeah, okay.
later encounters.
Yeah,
okay.
I was gonna say.
And I was at a big Playboy reunion thing, and I was hanging with Shannon at her. That would be his wife.
Okay.
His girlfriend. When Gene walked in, and anyways, there's more Kiss stuff, and then he wanted me to build his basses.
What bass did he want?
There was the
Axe bass.
the Axe, and I think the Ripper, but for sure the Axe was in there. But the problem with Gene Simmons is you can build his bass, but you can't get any of the money.
Uh-huh.
Like, we're going to sell these things for $36.
Battle of the Jews.
We're going to sell these for $3,600, and you can have the $600.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and it's going to be made in Korea. Back in the time when Korean guitars were $800, I'm like, dude, you can sell this to Spencer's Gifts, but the music store, you're not going to sell these into the music stores. And anyways, listen, he's a unique guy. He did his thing. Put up a casket for Daryl. Daryl, yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah, Daryl. We'll have
Yeah, because he was a big Kiss fan.
We'll have a whole podcast about
The funeral. Yeah.
And that thing up there, which I'm going to point to, which we're not going to talk about, which is
I'm waiting.
That's been sitting in my office for 19 years. So, anyways,
So you've done 2 Gibson tours.
yeah,
And you've got what you think you're ready to go.
yeah, and I come back, and now
You're inspired.
I'm buying machinery.
Okay.
Where to get the money? Come on, ask the question.
Where'd you get the money?
It takes a lot of money to start a guitar company.
Uh-huh.
Stole it. No. Okay, my father dies when I'm 12 in a plane crash, okay? My father made 6 figures back in those days, right?
Yeah, back in the 60s, 50s.
60s. 69. He died in 69.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyways, so there's a big mishandled lawsuit, Cessna, and our family award was $300,000,
Okay.
which was a fuck up.
Yeah, a little.
I'm saying fuck. I don't know what to say, but it was.
How do you price a life? How do you price a life at $300,000 today?
And guess
in
what?
any time frame?
Guess what? The lawyers take a third.
Right.
So $200,000 to the family for the loss of my father. Today, and it was total mechanical error.
So I was going to say, it was mechanical error.
A bad fuel line. It was literally like it was in for repair. Was supposed to be fixed, didn't get fixed. They didn't. I was young, you know what I mean?
Right.
Today, but anyways, we got screwed.
Yeah.
Which was not. I mean, there was no such thing as $1 million settlement back in those days.
Sure.
So you weren't going to get rich anyways. But I lost my father, which sucked. And we could have a whole podcast about losing your father when you're 12, but
which we should,
because I picked up the phone. But your life as you know it just.
Yeah, new identity, new everything.
Everything's changed. Okay, so, but I handled it because I'm Dean.
Yeah.
But anyways, so on the settlement, I got $45,000,
Okay.
and that's what the money I started Dean Guitars with.
Sure.
Which was way more. I mean, $45,000, and then was bigger money. Yeah, it was. It didn't handle the whole launch of the company, but
it got you going.
Yeah, it got me going.
Okay.
So, anyways, I had my life savings, $45,000.
Your dad wanted you to be a businessman.
Yeah.
And you're here ready to be
a businessman.
A businessman.
Which is the epiphany I had with the monkeys, but we'll talk about that another another time. But yeah, so I'm a businessman in the music business. I'm making the guitars.
Yeah.
So I took this path, but yeah, I'm now in manufacturing just like him.
Sweet.
So I go and rent a place in Evanston, Illinois. First place, I mean, it was the second floor. It was like stupid because we had to get machinery up to a second floor.
Okay.
Although we had a hoist and we had, anyways, worst place to, it was offices that we converted into a manufacturing space, but we made it work. Anyways, I rented the place and then I go down to Chicago and start buying machinery. And the cool thing about Chicago is a manufacturing town.
You've got everything you need.
And a manufacturing district. So when you went into the machinery, like the guys who sold machinery,
It was all there.
It was all there. You'd go door to door like you're at a mall buying clothes, you know.
Sure.
But there were like
that's
okay.
sweet.
And there was metalworking machinery, and you had to sort through that and stuff. But yeah, so I go into this one place, Woodworkers Tool Works. There's a guy named Bob Knurk, and he saw my 18, 19-year-old kid coming in wanting to build
"What is
guitars,
this?"
and he was like, he took a liking to me.
Okay.
He totally, oh, hey Bob, and I had a lot of personality, so I think people just liked me.
Right.
So I go in, I need this machine, it's got a spindle, but a shaper, yeah, I got one. Okay, I need that. Oh, I need a thickness sander. I need a this. I need a that. Anyways, he hooked me up with all the machinery. Overarm router, big Ekstrom Carlson overarm router. Buy a shaper, single spindle shaper. Then I buy a double spindle shaper. And these are machines that take your hand off. And
We might have to have a machine safety podcast at some point.
right. And then drum sanders, thickness sanders. I bought a molder that would, and the cool thing about Bob is he had a shop and he can make custom cutting tools. So like when I need to make a shape, the shape of the neck, I'm saying this is the shape, and he makes me custom tools. And the radiusing for the fingerboards, I bought this little molder. And he was like helping me, like, hey, this molder will do the job. You got a radius finger. He didn't know anything about guitars, but I told
but
him
he knew math.
Yeah. So he's like, yeah, you can do this, and I buy. I buy the molder. He makes me custom cutters, and we're making 12-inch radius fingerboard, blanks and stuff like that. So yeah, I figured it all out.
That's sweet.
Yeah. So that was. I'm getting tired.
I was gonna say, I think this is a part one of part two. We're well into an hour of starting up, and we've reached the point of you, well, essentially beginning to start up.
Right.
So I would say we'll call this part one.
Yeah.
We'll do part two next week.
I'm eating ice.
You're eating ice. Yeah.
But anyways, yeah, no.
He's sobering up, guys.
That's the end of part one of building the factory and taking the product taking me from 10 years old to
1918, yeah.
to 1977 when we launched the brand. And I just want to say, future podcasts are not all going to be like in order, but I felt it was kind of important to set the foundation of how
new podcast started off, from the beginning of who and what you are.
Right, but I'm just saying, like, there's no. It's hard to talk about all the things I did if you can't even talk about how I got
right
to my first guitar to market. So I think that's important, and then we'll talk about all the wild stuff, whatever it is.
There's a lot of wild stuff.
Okay,
sounds good. See you all on part two.
we're done.